Dear viewer students, in this session we shall have a discussion on the poem The Landlady, written by Margaret Atwood. In the last session we had a discussion on the poem When We Two Parted, and there we could discuss the life of Byron in brief as a romantic poet, and we discussed the theme of separation in the poem When We Two Parted, and we analyzed it critically, and also we referred some of the lines to be annotated. So today we shall move on to this poem, The Landlady, with these objectives. One is to know something about the poet. Poet's nationality, that she is a Canadian poet. She is not only a poet, a critic, a novelist, and also an activist in women rights movements. She was a champion of women's rights, and also she is known for the countryside life. Actually, she didn't have any schooling, the formal schooling she didn't have, but she later became a voracious reader of literature. Later she studied in various universities. She, as an activist in the movements of women's rights, she has built up her personality, and that can be well traced in the present poem, The Landlady. As I said, she didn't attend the school until she was 8 years of her age, but she became a voracious reader of literature, and she got graduation from Toronto University, and she got post-graduation from Radcliffe University, and he did her doctoral studies at Harvard University, United States of America. And another great achievement of her lifetime is she taught at many Canadian and American universities. So just you imagine how famous and the great personality she is as an intellectual. And also she taught in British Columbia University and New York University. But the wonderful thing about her personality is she started writing at the age of 6. And this is the wonderful thing about her background. And another thing, that it is really a noticeable aspect, that she was shortlisted for Booker Prize for 5 times. Before awarding the prize, there shall be the selection process in which before deciding one personality, they will make a short list, and finally out of that list one will be taken, and in that short list she was won for 5 times. And once she was awarded Booker Prize for The Blind Assassin, her great book, The Blind Assassin. She was awarded for that. She also she wrote so many novels and collections of poems, and her writings, whether they were criticism, pieces of criticism, or collection of poems, or the fiction. They were translated into many languages, and at the same time, some of her works were made films. She produced 15 collections of poems, and she is known for the celebration of natural world, and she condemns materialism. As we read her writings, we shall find this is her attitude. She celebrates the natural world and she condemns materialism. And to be mentioned, the very important collections like Double Persephone is one collection, The Circle of Game is another collection, The Animals in That Country, it is another collection. There are many other collections. Just for the knowing her contributions, I mentioned these 3 collections of poems. And honorary degrees she got from Oxford University, from Cambridge University, from Sorbonne University, and she got the 55 Canadian awards. In Canada, she was nominated for 55 awards, national awards. So this is the background of this poet Margaret Atwood in brief. Now let me give you an introduction to the poem. See what it speaks of, what this poem speaks of. What is the theme of this poem? This poem speaks of domination of a woman over another woman or over other women. So this is one thing we can go through in this poem. And another is, the poem deals with the theme of imprisoned life. Here the speaker, being a woman, is made to lead imprisoned life, and that is also referred in this poem. And another, it is dealing with the distortion of that woman's freedom, woman's personal freedom, woman's individual freedom. And also it deals with physical and mental confinement and physical and mental subservience, as all other inmates of that house as the tenants are also facing the same condition. And this is written in free verse, means here there is no rhyme scheme or no alliteration like that. It is written in free verse. And also, if you read this poem completely, you will find the image of a landlady, which is caricatured, which is sketched out in this poem. So this is an introduction to this poem. With this much of introduction, we can go to the text of the poem, and there we can go through these important points, these important issues. That's how we can interpret on the basis of these important issues. As we read out the text of the poem and explain all the lines of the poem to be understood by you, then we can analyze it in different ways, with different points of views, with different approaches. by taking up some of the issues to be discussed in this poem. While we read this poem, we can see the background that landlady, there is landlady and her house. Landlady is such a woman that she is present everywhere at the same time, means she is omnipresent. That in the poem her movement is compared to smells and how she interferes into others' life. That is very beautifully said in this poem. And also this speaker in the poem, see, it is very important to understand the speaker in the poem. Let us take it as the poet herself, that she is a tenant who is living in upstairs of the building that belongs to this landlady. And as the tenant, she is very much suffering from the loss of her liberty, freedom, due to the interference of this landlady, the owner of the house. And how she physically looks and what kind of interference she very often comes into her life, and that is very well discussed in the poem, that is very well brought out in the poem. Let us go through the text of the poem. The text of the poem begins like this. This is the lair of the landlady. She is a raw voice loose in the rooms beneath me. This is the lair. See, lair means L-A-I-R. Lair or lair means it is the house not fit to be the residence for human beings. It is the house fit for animals. So this landlady's house is compared to the animal's habitat. This landlady's house is compared to animal's habitat. Indirectly, the speaker is telling that this landlady is not human being, is not human being. She is animalistic. She is not like a human being. She doesn't belong to mankind. She belongs to animals race. Indirectly, she tells. So this is how she has that tone of protest against that landlady who interferes into everybody's life. Those are the tenants in that landlady's building, house. So what kind of lady she is, what kind of a woman she is? She is a raw voice loose in the rooms beneath me. Usually a woman's voice will be very sweet, mellow. Woman's voice will be very appeasable, very conducive one. But this landlady's house, this landlady's voice is raw. It is very rough, like animals. It is rough, like cruel or wild animals' voice. Loose in the rooms beneath me. Here it shows that the speaker is staying in the upstairs, and below her room there are many other tenants living, and everywhere this landlady's voice could be heard. So such a raw voice, such a big voice, it is always making sound everywhere in the building below the first floor. And the ground floor of that building has happened to be the continuous henyard. Continuous henyard means the yard where the hens are more in number, they never keep quiet. They always make sound. And like that, this ground floor is compared to henyard, because there is always the sound of that landlady's voice, squabble going on below. There is always squabble, means there is always a quarrel, there is always the voice of dispute, there is always a quarrel going on in the ground floor. Thought in this house like the bicker of blood through the head. There is always a sound of quarrel, because in the ground floor there are so many women living. All the women do not accept her interference, her the words of abuse, her cruel voice. They couldn't tolerate, and some of them come forward to quarrel with her, and such quarrel happens now and then continuously in the whole ground floor. And thought in this house like all this quarrel and raw voice of that landlady and henyard like the ground floor, this has been the bicker of blood through the head. This had been the noise that had caused the raising of the speaker's blood pressure. So it has been what we say, it created a lot of irritation to her state of mind. ಈ ಮೊದಲನ ಪಾರ್ಟರಿ ಪೋಯಿಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಪೋಯಿಟ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿ ಅಂಥವಳು, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿ ಮನಿ ಅಂತದ ಅದು ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗು ಅಂದರೆ, ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗಿನ ಓನರು, ಆ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸ್ಪೀಕರು ಕೂಡ ಬಾಡಿಗೆದಾರಳಾಗಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಇವಳ ಥರ ಭಾಳ ಜನ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲೋರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಡಿಗೆದಾರರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿಯ ಮನೆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳ ಮನೆ ಇದ್ದಂಗಿತ್ತು. ಇದರರ್ಥ ಆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿ ಎಂಥ ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತು ಅವಳ ವಯಸ್ಸು ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ, ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾದ ವಯಸ್ಸು, ಕೆಟ್ಟದಾದ ಒಂದು ಧ್ವನಿ. ಅದು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಇರೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ರೂಮ್ಗಳು, ಕೆಳಗಿರೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಜನ ಬಾಡಿಗೆದಾರಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರ ರೂಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಬೇಕಾವಾಗ ಅವಳ ಧ್ವನಿ ನುಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತಂತೆ. ಎಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಒಂದು ಹೆನ್ಯಾರ್ಡ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವತ್ತು ಬಿಡುವಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಅವು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ, ಒದರ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ, ಹಾಗೆ ಇವಳ ರಾ ವಾಯ್ಸು ಸೌಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೇ ಇತ್ತು. ಮತ್ತು ಇವಳ ರಾ ವಾಯ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬೇಸತ್ತ ಕೆಲವು ಹೆಂಗಸರು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಇವಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಜಗಳ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೇ ಇದ್ರು. ಆ ಕ್ವಾರಲಿಂಗ್ ಸೌಂಡು ಕೂಡ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ಇರಿಟೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೇ ಇತ್ತು. ಥಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದ ಬಿಕರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬ್ಲಡ್. ಈ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಾರಲಿಂಗ್ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಇವಳನ್ನ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾಡ್ತಿತ್ತು ಅಂದರೆ, ಇವಳ ತಲೆಯ ಒಳಗೆ ಇವಳ ಒಂದು ರಕ್ತದ ಒತ್ತಡ ಇವಳನ್ನ ತಲೆ ಚಿಟ್ಟಿ ಹಿಡಿಸಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿತ್ತಂತೆ. ಆ ಪರಿ ಈ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಗಳದಿಂದ, ಈ ಸೌಂಡಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿರ್ತಿತ್ತಂತೆ. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ us move on to the next part. She is everywhere, intrusive as the smells that bulge in under my doorsill. See, that landlady is compared to the smell, because that smell travels everywhere. You cannot stop its entry into our privacy, because smell has that quality of getting into every space. Even though we stop it coming, it cannot be stopped. That's why this landlady is compared to the intrusive smell. So she is compared to the smell that she is like an intruder. She is an interfere into everybody's life. That bulging under my doorsills means even when I keep my doors shut, even keep my doors closed tightly, it enters into the door sills. There shall be the slits in the doors. Even through the slits, it could enter into the speaker's room. She presides over my meager eating. Even when I am sitting for food, sitting for meals, she used to enter into my room and sit beside me, and she presides over my eating. That too I eat very less. Even to eat that very less quantity of food, she presides over me. She doesn't give me that freedom, that I get irritated with her presence even when I am sitting to eat. And generates the light for eye strain. Even to put on the lights, she has to permit us. She has to give permission. Means even the sufficient light is not available for us. If we want to get the sufficient light, that has to be permitted by this landlady, because that landlady is the owner of the house and she restricts every tenant to use the lights as sufficient as they need, as they desire for, as they want. And this is how she has interfered into the life of everybody, into the life of the speaker in that building. Then, see, meager light, less light I used to use because it was restricted by that landlady, and for that reason my eyes strain. See, my eyes are very much painful. Then from her I rent my time. She not only interferes into our activities, speaker's activities, she also captures, she also steals the time, the personal time of the speaker, as well the time of all the people who are living on the ground floor. From her I rent my time. It is not only I have taken her house for rent, I have also taken the time for rent also, because the time is also hers. When I became the tenant of the landlady, I had to take the house for rent as well, even the time also for rent. She slams my days like doors. Means she interferes into me, into my life, and she herself robs my time, robs my days, robs my personal time, and that is how she has robbed my days, and that is how she has closed my days like closing the doors, shutting the doors. So in that house, in that building, as I am living as the tenant, nothing is mine. In that building, as I am living as a tenant, nothing is mine. Everything is taken for rent. For everything, I have become a tenant. I don't have any freedom to sleep, to eat, to speak, to listen to music, or to have a sufficient light, and to spend my own life in privacy. Nothing I have. Everything is taken for rent. Everything belongs to that landlady. ಈ ಪಾರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ ಕವಿ ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೇಡಿ ಅದಾಳಲ್ಲ, ಈಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿವೇರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೀಸ್ಯೂ ಆಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್. ಇವಳು ಎಂಥವಳು ಅಂದರೆ ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿನಾಗ ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಇರ್ತಾಳೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ನುಗ್ತಾಳೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಪ್ರವೇಶ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ, ಹಸ್ತಕ್ಷೇಪ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ಲಿನ ಥರ. ನಾವು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಸ್ಮೆಲ್ನ ತಡೆಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಇವಳು, ನಾವು ಟೈಟಾಗಿ ಡೋರ್ಸ್ನ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಆ ಡೋರ್ಗಳ ಬಿರುಕಿನ ಒಳಗಾದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಇವಳು ನುಸುಳಿ ಬರ್ತಾಳೆ, ಒಂದು ವಾಸನೆಯ ತರಹ. ನಾವು ವಾಸನೆಯನ್ನು ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಹಂಗೆ ನುಸುಳಿ ಬರ್ತಾಳೆ ವಾಸನೆಯ ಥರ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇವಳು, ನಾನು ಉಣ್ಣೋದೇ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ, ನಾನು ಊಟ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಬಂದು ನನ್ನ ಎದುರಿಗೆ ಕೂತು ಒಂದು ಏನು ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಟೈಮನ್ನು, ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿಗೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸೋಕ್ಕೆ ಅಡ್ಡಿ ಉಂಟು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಸಿ ಪ್ರಿಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಓವರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ಇವಳು ಸೂಪರ್ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಫ್ರೀಯಾಗಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಲಿ, ನನಗೆ ಉಣ್ಣೋದೇ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಇವಳು ಬಂದು ಪ್ರಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಇನ್ನು ಜನರೇಟ್ಸ್ ದ ಲೈಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಐ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇನ್. ಮತ್ತು ನನ್ನ ಕಣ್ಣು ನೋವಾಗ ಅಂತ ಏನೋ ಮಸುಕಾದ ಬೆಳಕಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೈಫನ್ನು ಕಳಿಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಲೈಟ್ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕೂ ಅವಳು ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಬೇಕು. ಸಫಿಷಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಲೈಟು ಕೂಡ ನನಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಂಗೆ ಅವಳು ಸೂಪರ್ವೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ. ಫ್ರಮ್ ಹರ್ ಐ ರೆಂಟ್ ಮೈ ಟೈಮ್. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಅವಳ ಮನೇನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ದಿನನಿತ್ಯ ಬದುಕುವ ಟೈಮು ಕೂಡ ಆ ಟೈಮ್ಗೂ ನಾನು ಬಾಡಿಗೆದಾರಳಾಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಅವಳು ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾನು ಆ ಟೈಮನ್ನು ಬಳಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನು ಮೈ ಡೇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಡೋರ್ಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈನ್. ನನ್ನ ದಿನಗಳನ್ನ, ನನ್ನ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಆದಂಥ ದಿನಗಳನ್ನ, ನನ್ನ ಲೈಫ್ನ ಅವಳೇ ಕದಮುಚ್ಚಿದ ಥರ ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ದಿನಗಳನ್ನು ಕಬಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಶಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ರಾಬ್ಡ್ ಮೈ ಡೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಕಬಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇಡೀ ನನ್ನ ಈ ಲೈಫ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಎ ಟೆನೆಂಟ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಹೌಸ್ ದಟ್ ಬಿಲಾಂಗ್ಸ್ ಟು ದಿಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೇಡಿ, ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೈನ್. ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೇಡಿಯ ಮನೆಯೊಳಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತು ನಾನು ಬಾಡಿಗೆದಾರಳಾಗಿ ಬಂದು ಅವತ್ತಿನಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತಿನವರೆಗೂ ಏನೂ ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಾಗ ನಂದಲ್ವೇ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಓನರ್ ಅವಳು. ಬರೀ ಮನೆಗಷ್ಟೇ ಓನರ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದ ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವಳೇ ಓನರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾಳೆ. ಅವಳು ಸ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು ನಾನು ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ಬೋದು. And when I dream images of daring escapes through the snow, so after a long time that she underwent such an experience of irritation, being a tenant in the house belonging to that landlady, she imagines or she dreams of escaping courageously from this landlady when there is a thick snow. So she chooses the time of thick snow to escape from this landlady with a lot of courage. It shows that how even mentally also she was confined, she was restricted, and she was terrified with the presence of that landlady everywhere at any time, at all the times. I find myself walking always over a vast face. Even when I dream of daring escape from this landlady's domination, I find this vast face. It is like a hallucination. I find this vast face of landlady amidst that thick snow. By the time I try to escape from this place, which is the landlady's, and wake up shouting. And that face is none other than the face of this landlady. And when I find that landlady, I shall be shocked. I am so afraid. I shall be shocked. I am so terrored. And that's why I get up from my bed and shout with a great shock. Andre, ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೇಡಿ ಈ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಪೋಯೆಟ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮೆಂಟಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವಳು ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು. ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವಳನ್ನ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಶರಣಾಗತಿಗೆ ಒಳಪಡಿಸಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು. ಅಂದರೆ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಅವಾಗವಾಗ ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಲೇಡಿಯಿಂದ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆದ ಥರ ಕನಸು ಬೀಳ್ತಿತ್ತಂತೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಕನಸು ಬೀಳೋದು ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಜವಾಗಿಯೂ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗೋವಷ್ಟು ಧೈರ್ಯನೇ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು ಪಾಪ. ಈ ಸ್ಪೀಕರು ನಿಜವಾಗೂ ಇನ್ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗ ಅಂತ ಧೈರ್ಯನೇ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕನಸಿನಾಗ ಹೆಂಗೋ ಧೈರ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಅವಾಗವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಭ್ರಮೆಯ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋದಂತೆ. ಅದು ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗೋಕ್ಕೆ, ಧೈರ್ಯ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ಇವಳು ಎಂಥ ಟೈಮನ್ನು ಚೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ಲಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಎಂಥ ಟೈಮು ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ತುಂಬ ದಟ್ಟವಾದಂಥ ಇಬ್ಬನಿ, ದಟ್ಟವಾದಂಥ ಸ್ನೋ ಬೀಳ್ತದಲ್ಲ, ಆವಾಗ ಆ ಸ್ನೋದ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು, ನಾನು ಕಾಣ್ದಂಗೆ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೇನೆ, ಇವಳಿಗೆ ತಪ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ತಪ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಥರ ಕನಸು ಕಾಣ್ತದ್ಲಂತೆ. ಆದರೆ ಕನಸಿನಾಗ ಅದು ದಟ್ಟವಾದ ಆ ಸ್ನೋದ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಇವಳು ತಪ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಇದ್ದಕ್ಕಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ಎದುರಿಗೆ ಆ ಸ್ನೋದ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಈ ವಾಸ್ಟ್ ಫೇಸ್, ವಿಶಾಲವಾದ ಇವಳ ಭಯಾನಕ ಮುಖ ಎದುರಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ನಿಂತ್ಬಿಡೋದಂತೆ. ಆ ಮುಖ ಮತ್ತಾರ್ದು? ಈ ಲೇಡೀಸ್ ಮುಖನೇ, ಆ ಮುಖ ಕಾಣ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ಇವಳು ಬೆಡ್ನಿಂದ ಸಡನ್ನಾಗಿ ಚಿಟ್ಟನೆ ಚೀರಿ ಎದ್ದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂತದ್ಲಂತೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಮಾನಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಕೂಡ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲೇಡಿ ಈ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಇಂಟರ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ಲು, ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ನ ಅರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು, ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಏನೋ ಶರಣಾಗತಿ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ಲು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅವಳು ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾಳೆ. ಶಿ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಬಲ್ಕ್, a knot swollen in a space. She is a bulk. Bulk means what is the physical appearance of this landlady? She is so huge in body. She is a bulky woman physically, and a knot swollen in a space, a knot swollen in a space. She is physically so bulky, and she is a knot so swollen which couldn't be cleared, which couldn't be loosened. Such a physical appearance she had. Though I have tried to find some way around her, my senses are cluttered by perception and can't see through her. Though I have tried to find some way around her. So, how to escape from her, and from which direction I can just run away and escape from her? I tried so many times. I tried my level best so many times to find the ways to escape from her in all the directions. But whenever I tried the ways around to escape from her, I feel mentally I am arrested, I am put in the custody of that landlady. My senses are cluttered by perception. I get confused. My senses are cluttered by perception. Means my senses, my mind is put in confusion, put in the state of confusedness. That is, to perceive the ways to get away from here and can't see through her. And that's why wherever I look for the ways to get out of here, to get away from here, in all those directions I couldn't perceive any way around, but I could find only the presence of that landlady, who is a bulky a woman by physical stature. She is a bulky woman, and she is not swollen, means she is so huge physically. I get confused myself, that wherever I look for the ways around to get away from here, she aboundingly appears. She abounds. She aboundingly appears to me, blocking my way to get away from here. ಈ ಲೈನ್ಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾಳೆ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಫಿಸಿಕಲಿ ಹೆಂಗಿದ್ಲಂತೆ ಅವಳು ಅಂದರೆ ದಡೂತಿ ಹೆಂಗಸು, ತುಂಬ ದಡೂತಿ ಹೆಂಗಸು, ಭಯಾನಕವಾದಂಥ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸು, ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ವೋಲನ್, ತುಂಬ ವಿಶಾಲವಾದ ಕಗ್ಗಂಟು ಅವಳನ್ನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿ, ಅವಳನ್ನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿ ಟ್ಯಾಕಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕಗ್ಗಂಟು ಅವಳು. ನಾನು ದೋ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಸಮ್ ವೇ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಹರ್, ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಾರಿ ಅವಳ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತಲು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾದಿ ಐತಿ ನನಗೆ ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಓಡೋಗ್ಬಿಡೋಣ ಇವಳಿಂದ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಾರಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆದರೂ ಹಂಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಾರಿ ನಾನು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡೀನಿ, ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಮಾರ್ಗನ ಹುಡುಕ್ಯಂತ ತಪ್ಸ್ಕೊಂಬಿಡೋಣ ಅಂತ. ಆದರೆ ಆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾರ್ಗಗಳು ನನಗೆ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆದ ಥರ ನನ್ನ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊಂದಲಕ್ಕೊಳಗಾಗಿಬಿಡ್ತವೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊಂದಲಕ್ಕೊಳಗಾಗಿಬಿಡ್ತವೆ. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಕ್ಲಟರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಪರ್ಸೆಪ್ಷನ್. ನಾನು ನೋಡ್ದಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಕಾಣಬೇಕಾದಂಥ ವೇಗಳು, ಮಾರ್ಗಗಳ ಬದಲಾಗಿ ಅವಳು ಕಾಣ್ತಾಳೆ, ಅವಳೇ ಬಂದು ಅಡ್ಡ ನಿಂತಂಗೆ ನನಗೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಸಿ ಥ್ರೂ ಹರ್, ಅವಳನ್ನು ದಾಟಿ ಇನ್ನು ಮಾರ್ಗನ ನಾನು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕಾಣಲಿ, ಆ ಪರಿ ನನಗೆ ಅಡ್ಗಟ್ಟಿದಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Let us see the last few lines. She stands there, a raucous fact, blocking my way. Everywhere. It is a kind of a hallucination to the speaker in this poem that she is so afraid, even mentally also, she is completely put in the custody of that landlady, that she stands there, a raucous fact. She is found everywhere with the raucous fact means sounding very rough and loud. Her sound goes everywhere, and it makes her presence everywhere, and it makes everybody afraid of her presence. Blocking my way. Even on my way also it comes and it blocks my way to escape from here, to go away from here. Immutable. But nobody can move that presence of that landlady away from the way. Such immutable presence it is. A slab of what is real. Immutable means like a slab which is very heavy, that nobody can move it away, nobody can shake it even. Such the landlady seems to be present everywhere on the way to escape from her or go away from this habitat. Solid as bacon. So she is solid as bacon. She is solid as bacon, which is very tough to be digested. She is solid as bacon, which is very tough to be digested. Such a woman, such a landlady she is. And this landlady has dominated over the life of the speaker as well, the life of all the people who are the tenants in her building. And this is what the text of the poem that we explained each and every line. I think you could understand this completely. And with the help of this understanding of the lines, the comprehension of the whole poem, the theme, we shall have the critical discussion, or we shall have the analysis of different issues in this poem in the later session. So different interpretations are possible. In the later sessions we can discuss them, like a feminist point of view, how this elderly woman is used here as a symbol of old tradition, and as the result of that how the speaker suffers from the loss of independence, loss of freedom. This is what we are supposed to discuss in the next session. So far I discussed this poem by going through all the lines. I think you could understand the poem very well with better comprehension. Thank you. Thank you.